Gathered the finance committee for June 30th, 2023, started 12. First order of business, motion to approve minutes of prior committee meetings. Supervisor Bruno, Supervisor Crosby, any questions? No question, then all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Third item is privilege of the floor, public comment. Mr. Luciano, you're up. Would you like to have the floor?
Thank you, Mr. Leggett. My voice shakes. It's a big day for us. I want to make sure I get my points across, and we have a clear understanding of the project. So
now this is privilege of the floor. So we're going to get onto the item for the occupancy tax. So you're good with that.
Okay.
So
I have nothing to say.
Let's go into the action items thing. First is a request for transfer of funds as attached for committee approval. Motion to bring it to the floor. And what Chair had just passed out to everybody, there's one more there, and this came out of the personnel here. For the county administrator salaries to county administrator contracts. So, and this is for the clerk that was in our budget meeting that was approved a little bit earlier. So, can you explain? Sure. And what it is, it's clerk is the software that improves and systems in the budget process. It's a really nice setup there, very accessible to the public. Mr. Administrator.
I feel so serious about this. I'm giving up part of my salary. Basically, it resides. It's software. It's going to cost us $14,000 a year. We brought these guys in January to talk about. It resides on top of New World. It would give us a digital budget book that would be released to the public and available online that they could easily navigate a lot more easier than our budget book. And it provides graphs and charts and analysis over the years. And it said it's a $14,000. We were going to see if we could build it in-house, and we spent a couple of months looking at. We spend years doing it, and it just wasn't cost effective.
Is the public able to comment on this site where it is when they're looking at it? Is it like interactive or?
It's not interactive. I don't believe that's not something we discussed, so I'm not sure I know the answer to that.
Sounds like a good program. I was just curious.
Our model is St. Lawrence County has done it. Greene County just adopted it. And a number of counties in the country or in the state are using it, and about 1,000 across the country.
A motion for action item number 1, request for transfer of funds. Let's run up. Thank you. Vice Lanya, thank you. On second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Item number 2, request items to be discussed by the county administrator. County administrator, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The journal report of transfers, in light of the fact that we have a pretty full agenda, and I told him to turn off the air conditioner above me because it's loud. Sorry, Kevin. I'll just ask if there are any questions about this.
And there's no action required on this. So let's go then to number 3, request to be discussed by the county treasurer, Mike Swan. Treasurer Swan, you have the floor.
Good morning, everybody, or sorry, good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to say my first request concerning the minimum reserve for the occupancy tax. We'll have all you fine people here will have absolutely no impact on your ask today. Okay, so before we get, I want to get that out of the way first. But basically, if you look at the chart that I have sent out, you'll see that in several months of the year, when our cash flow is not keeping up with our revenue. If you look at the surplus deficit, if you go to May, it's 1.9 million. This was last year's figure. If you go to June, it's 1.8 million. If you go to July, it's 1.8 million. And then in August, it goes down to 1.1 million. I'm asking to increase the resolution that states that the minimum be 1 million, be moved to 1.5 million. So that I make sure that in the coming years, we have enough guaranteed cash flow to make sure that the bills are paid. Questions?
Motion being to the floor. Supervisor Runyon, Supervisor Frazier on second. Any further discussions on these? And this is basically to protect our cash flow because we're having greater requests for the occupancy tax?
Yeah, it's not only just the events and everything else, but it's just the day-to-day business. And the more, it's kind of hard to explain, the more occupancy tax we collect, the more distribution we have to do to the towns, which encumbers money in June to lower the amount that we actually have on hand. I can't remember what it was this year. I think it was almost $400,000. We had to increase the ask because we went from 6 point something million to 7.2 million in collections because it's a percentage. So we're just hedging against that.
Will this have any other effect on the way the occupancy tax is distributed?
No. That is still done by the law and the local law. And so, no, as a board, so it will not.
Supervisor Beatty?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So if our funding roughly 7 million a year drops, nobody predicted 2008, nobody predicted in today's world, nothing's predictable, everything's unpredictable. So does the reserve fund stay the same at 1.5 million? So let's say the funding, we have our great people in here that are terrible here, heaven forbid that happens. But it drops, the act tax drops from 7 million down to 3 million, 4 million, whatever. Does that baseline reserve 1.5 stay the same?
Yes. What we're trying to do is let's say, God forbid, your scenario happens. We're saying that once we get the reserve down to 1.5 million, you can no longer hit that for anything else because we need that for cash flow. To pay salaries, to pay contracts, to pay whatever is out there.
Okay, and along with that, 25% that every town gets would go down proportionally if,
Yes. Yeah, because it's a percentage of the total. It's what's distributed back to the town. So yes, if we're collecting a lot less money, then their take is a lot less because it's 25%.
Okay.
Mr. Treasurer, if we took no action, what would be the consequences?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
If we took no action, what would be the consequences?
Immediately, nothing. Other than the fact that we would be at 1 million. If something happens next year, it could cause some problems. I'm just trying to hedge against if we have a problem.
Which board's pleasure? We'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, my second request is to transfer $50,876 premium received on the insurance for the 2023 band renewal to the reserve debt. The easiest way for me to explain this is we went out and resold bonds to roll the band over that we took out for Countryside, the wall and Bolton and highway projects. When those bonds are sold, sometimes you actually collect a little bit more money than what you needed to pay out. And that's what happened here. What we sold the bonds for was $50,000 more than what we needed to make the payment to pay off the previous bonds. So what we're required by law to roll that money over into the debt service so that it can be used to pay for debt next year.
Moved by Supervisor Beatty, seconded by Supervisor Thomas. Any further discussion? And the rates on bonds, were they good?
No. Almost 4%.
Well, we've been spoiled.
The first ones were 1.6,
Yeah.
I believe.
Final question, all those in favor of 3B, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? None? Motion carries. Thank you, Treasurer Schwan. Number 4, referrals from county facilities committee. Buildings and grounds, A, request increase in capital project for Countryside in an amount of $400,000. So I'd like to bring it to the floor, Supervisor Thomas. And second, Supervisor Runyon. Discussion. Supervisor Bay.
Yeah, so Supervisor Bruno's here. So, hello, Dan. Would you tell me why we're increasing the capital project by 200,000?
This concerns the roof. And during the course of construction, or actually some demolition of the roof, it was found that there was more asbestos. And I'll let Superintendent Hazel speak if you'd like. If I can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So when we really look at the design of Countryside, there was a limited hazardous survey done for the facility. In the title, it's limited. There's spots that they can't see. There was a built-up roof, actually 2 built-up roofs on the existing facility that we did not know that it was built up twice. The only way they could be able to tell that that was there was destructive testing, which we were allowing them to cut open a roof. So when they started to get into the roof repairs, they determined there was a kind of a coping all the way around the entire facility, as well as over, I think, the director's office that contained more asbestos than we had originally thought. The proposal that we originally got was worst case scenario was this 400,000. We any day now will receive the updated, but I didn't want it. This is the worst case scenario, and I wanted to plan for the worst case scenario. So this will include that abatement, that demolition, and monitoring of that asbestos in that roof area. And I'm hoping to get money back. All said and done, but I wanted to make sure worst case scenario that we had the funding in there.
So we had a long discussion.
Yes.
Superintendent and I. I was concerned that it was an oversight, or whatever you want to call it, that could have been prevented. Now, maybe some of it was, but we're kind of been working with the consultant. And I don't.
And the contractor.
To determine that, this is legitimate. It's a big chunk, right?
Yes. Yep.
We want to be very sure that we're not paying for something that we shouldn't have to pay for, whether it's through the consultant's insurance or what have you.
Yeah, and again, I go back to, it's a limited hazardous survey. We don't, it's tough to see in walls. I mean, even if I think somebody had said, if you open up a wall, put a hole in it, put a camera in it, you're not going to tell if that's asbestos or not. I mean, it needs to be tested. And no one expected, that facility's been there an awful long time. No one expected that many different built up sections of roof. And I actually brought the picture here to kind of show it, but there's an original roof. And then there was a built up section of another roof on top of it. And that's what we didn't, we were going to have them take or destructively cut open that roof during the design stage. So.
Why do you need to cut it open now?
To replace the roof.
The roof running over.
And no, code will just to put another section over that roof. Otherwise, I would. Otherwise, that'd probably be around, I would.
Considering how much we spent on the jail demo, and a lot of that expense was also related to asbestos in most places across municipalities, across the whole state and such. And I would question, is it necessary to have all of these asbestos regulations in there? Is that something that would be taken up by county facilities and advocate for any changes in the laws through the time? NISAC is coming up in fall. It could be brought before any of those committees.
I would love to say that I would love to champion that for you, but I think we're going to hit a brick wall with the state and the Department of Labor on that you're not going to get anywhere.
I try to be willing to, but I'll do this to my death because that's what it'll take me to ever get anywhere with them.
To your point, some of these, and I'll be very blunt, some of these regulations concerning asbestos, I have dealt with in years of my professional career, are questionable. I'll be kind. But as a superintendent said, trying to get them modified, change, or what have you, is more than an uphill battle and pretty much insurmountable, unfortunately.
And there's no source of funding identified for this?
I'm sorry, I'm looking at the budget officer.
Sorry. Yeah. All those in favor, we do have the motion on the floor, correct? Okay, call the question for 4A. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? None opposed? Now on 4B, 4A passes. So to appropriate 400,000 from budget code general fund unappropriated surplus to transfer to capital projects. Motion breaks the floor. Supervisor Runyon, Supervisor Frazier. Now discussion. Supervisor Beatty.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. What's our current level of unappropriated surplus? You know where we are, Frank?
At the end of the year, it's right around 40 million. But we've whittled on that.
Yeah, that's why I was just curious if you knew that up yet. Okay, no problem.
Superintendent Ajos, most of this project was covered by bonds.
Bonds, ARPA money, grants. There's a whole slew of funding for this project.
To be able to cover, and the total of the project to date without this 400,000 is around 4 million.
4.5 million, 4.2. Yeah,
When we started it out around 2.
that was based on the Beardsley report until the final design was done. Then it moved to 4.2. Yes,
Supervisor Bruno.
I'd like to reiterate that this is a worst case.
correct.
And the Swedish funding is working diligently to reduce this amount and to get,
Yeah.
other entities to share the whole burden. So I just want to reiterate that.
Any further discussion, Supervisor Beatty?
Yeah, I'm on the ARPA committee. I believe we gave over $1 million.
$1 million.
Yeah, $1 million. And the shortfall was 400,000 of the total 4.2. Is that correct, Evan? Right. So you're asking, we've spent just about all the ARPA money, but sometimes we get money back that certain projects didn't come to fruition and so forth. So, instead of, I don't know, it's all about timing, but instead of getting the full 400,000 from the county, maybe that ARPA could help out again with some additional dollars. We had a little bit left, not a lot, but I'm just throwing that out there.
And I would say I will take the funding from wherever you want to give it to me from. The fact of the matter is it's under our time constraints because we are under construction and I would not want a delay claim that costs us even more with the project. So
That's fair.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
thank you.
Motion carries. Good luck with it. Thank you. Make us look good. On to number 5 here, referral from the Criminal Justice Public Safety Committee, Public Defender, as first moved, 5A, request to amend the budget in the amount of $54,194 to reflect receipt of the Harrell Herring Year 5 funding. Motion to bring to the floor. Supervisor Gerasi, second by Supervisor Runyon. Discussion? Call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 5B, request to amend the budget for 2023 in the amount of $9,405 to reflect receipt of ILS funding. Supervisor Gerasi, Supervisor Bruno on second. Discussion on this. Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5C, request from sheriff for transfer funds amount of $41,383.36 from the sheriff's 911 center PSAP grant, technical equipment to sheriff's 911 center 21-22 PSAP grant salaries regular for grant reporting and reimbursement purposes. Supervisor Thomas on first, Supervisor Runyon on second. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6, referrals from Economic Growth and Development Committee here, Workforce Development. 6A is a request to amend the budget for 2023 in the amount of $205,000 to reflect the receipt of federal community project grant award for the purpose of covering costs for startup and train new home-based child care providers. Supervisor Drossy, Supervisor Bruno on the second. Discussion. Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor of 6A, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? None. Motion carries. 6B is a request to amend the Warren County budget for 2023 in the amount of $113,513 to reflect the receipt of the TANF grant funds for summer youth employment program. Move to the floor, Supervisor Bruno, Supervisor Frazier on the second. Discussion. Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, referrals from Human Services Committee. Department of Social Services. It's a request to appropriate funds in the amount of $50,000 from the general fund unappropriated surplus to increase expenses for the social services public facility for children, other payment contributions. And this is to cover the cost for an increase in the daily rate, as well as the number of individuals and care days that are occurring at the state detention homes that will be charged to the Department of Social Services. Supervisor Thomas, Supervisor Bruno, discussion.
I think these are mandated among states. So, not a lot.
Okay. Supervisor Biscoe.
Yeah, there are mandated, there court ordered placements of youth at the state detention halls. And I think the average, I think the going rate is like $900 a day. A lot more than I would probably spend at any of the fine establishments represented here. It's academic.
All right. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor of 7, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? None. Motion carries. On to 8, referrals from legislative rules and government ops, board of elections. 8A is a request to amend the budget in the amount of $22,620.96 to reflect the receipt of additional grant funding awarded to the Board of Elections absentee ballot prepaid postage grant program. Supervisor Gerasi, Supervisor Thomas on the second. Discussion. No discussion. Call the question. All those in favor of 8A say aye. Aye. And opposed? None. Motion carries. 8B. Request to amend the Warren County budget in the amount of $67,496.53 to reflect the receipt of additional funding awarded under the Board of Elections Tech Innovation and Election Resources, the TIER grant program. Motion bring to the floor. Supervisor Bruno, Supervisor Runyon on the second. Discussion. Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? None. Motion carries for 8B. On to 9. Referrals from the Occupancy and Tax Coordination Committee. Number 1 is for A, request to appropriate funds in the amount of $36,400 from Occupancy Tax Reserve to Tourism Occupancy Tax Tourism Special Events, provide funding to Rittner's Performing Arts Company for the production of History on the Road. Motion bring it forward, Supervisor Runyon, Supervisor Frazier on the second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the question for non-A. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. 9B, request to appropriate funds in the amount of $3 million from Budget Code Reserve Occupancy Tax to the Tourism Warren County projects to provide funding for the Warren County Winter Coalition. Motion bring to the floor. Supervisor Runyon, Supervisor Frazier on the second. Discussion.
Well, I'd like to hear from Sam now, because
Well, would anybody like to speak to this from the public? from the coalition. You may have the floor. Sam?
Thank you, Doug. I don't know if I need to say anything. Thank you. It's moving along so quick. For your time this morning. It is a big decision for Warren County. It's a big decision for us. This project is large. It will change the face of Warren County. It will change Warren County forever. It will be a year-round destination. It's an important day. A yes vote for this winter project will solve many problems of Warren County, making it a year-round destination, create year-round jobs. We have a lot of wonderful young people that are students of Warren County that leave us and go to pursue careers in other places where they get year-round careers. We're very lucky to have Vinny Cressito Jr., who's outstanding. He doesn't work for any company, Marriott, Hilton, but he likes to stay in Warren County. Would give year-round career jobs for people like Vinny. We have a PowerPoint loaded up and ready to go. I think it was distributed to everybody. If anybody would like to see it, we'd be happy to bring you through it. If not,
Any objection from the committee? No, without objection, please.
we've also had PowerPoint was shown through different phases on Wednesday, May 10th, the 31st, the 20th of June, and then into private sessions even this week. We also submitted questions and answers to the board. I'd like to see if there's any questions on that document.
Any questions at this time? Vice Mayor.
Is the coalition all registered and all set up now?
Coalition is all set. It's registered.
Okay, because somebody had said they hadn't found it yet, but it's all set up now.
Working with Rebecca Herrick. She called me this morning for the filing with the IRS for the.
Okay. And that's what this one guy was saying. Okay.
All set and ready to go. I guess if there's no questions, we know it's a big number and we know the timeline was tight. We had to move it along as fast as we could. The timeline for us, we started this work February 8th, and Mayor Blaze gets all the credit for it. He put us together. We have a high-powered committee. If you guys would raise your hands, I want to introduce all of you, Tom, Christian, Sarah. We put some of the best on this committee. This is a rarity because we're bringing an offer where we're going to pay back the yacht tax. That was done one time before. This same business community came together during COVID. It was February when Winter Carnival was not going to happen. We said we have to do something, so we put together Winterfest, run by St. Christian Dutchery. He paid back the money that year. So you have precedence on this, and you have precedence with us. And the question we ask is, if you don't do this now, then when? And if not this project, then what is it? And as you said, the transient market may be a little shaky this summer. We are going to bring to you a magnanimous event that'll change with a 1-2 punch with ice castles. We formed the coalition, put this committee together. We've added ice castles to our committee. Talked to them this morning. This is going to be very big for Warren County and all of Warren County, all of the surrounding communities. I'll leave it at that. I think it's a holiday weekend. Anybody have any questions for me? Doug?
Yeah. Thanks for having me this week, by the way. You and Kathy, thank you very much. Supervisor Brammer couldn't be here today, but she was there. I expressed some concerns. Okay. I'm an upfront guy. I don't pussyfoot around. One of my concerns is it's a 5-year loan. You mentioned you may need to take a little longer than that. And with no collateral. Okay. And I gave you the example when I go buy a car. I tell them I'm going to pay back monthly. They make me sign a contract, but they got the car as collateral, basically, right? If I don't fulfill my end of the bargain, the car goes away. They repo the car. So that's a concern. Okay. That's I'm a huge supporter of tourism up here. I mean, you guys are the second or third largest employer. I mean, without Lake Georgian tourism, we sink as a county. I'm fully aware of that. Really. Timing was a concern I also expressed to you. 4 weeks is a short window when you're asking for $3 million. When I used to run a company, I would never make a decision of that magnitude in a 4 weeks time frame. I just wouldn't, because I didn't feel I had vetted the project or whatever thoroughly. And so that's an issue with me too. Okay. the timing, the fact that there's no collateral, the fact that, and so forth. I think you guys, well, I know this is just an example of how you come together and are fully behind this. You mentioned to me at that meeting that if you look at the funding, you don't think there'll be another opportunity. Okay, for the light show. From my experience, okay, and this again, just Doug Beatty talking. When I do something fairly quickly, it usually comes back to bite me. Okay, I mean it's just me, but maybe I'm a lucky guy. Because if it's a sound financial project, which I believe it is. If we miss this window, this short window, the $3 million in the next month they give you. I believe that there'd be other opportunities. Now, that maybe that's me being naive, but maybe that's me using some of my experience when I ran a company. If it's a financial situation now, and it goes by the wayside, I believe other companies will come back and say, "Hey, those guys, the county screwed up. They missed it, but we want you in now." So so those are all the things I'm putting in my mind, Sam, and putting the event. I've heard from some residents, they don't know the extent of the show and so forth, the lighting show. So their initial reaction is no. When somebody says money, everybody says no. But I tried to explain to them that positives and my concerns. So I'm still, I still haven't decided until I go to the board here and vote on officially, probably in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are you cutting me off, Mr. Chairman?
I am.
Okay, and why are you doing that again?
No, because I think you stated everything you needed to.
Well, you're speaking for me now, I appreciate that, but if you can read my mind, I appreciate that.
Do you have anything more? A digital ad
Okay.
quickly.
Now I'll go nice and slow. I don't like to be rushed. I think I mentioned that. So going forward, if we don't approve this today, your gut feeling, Sam, is that we'll never have another opportunity?
Those are great questions, Doug. My gut feeling is if we don't do this today, another county or competing counties will jump on this. We've outlined the plan, we vetted this, we spent much time on this. And we realize again, it is a short duration, but we did our homework on this. Don't forget, when we talked, Ice Castles in 2022 sold 90,000 tickets. They opened on January 27th, closed on February 23rd, and had a horrible week of the kids' break in school, and they sold 90,000 tickets. We're anticipating conservatively 120,000 over 4 months.
Right.
That type of volume, we think it's going to be much greater than that, but that type of volume, we're confident this is a solid business model, and we are safe with it. We have careers, we have on the line right now, we have reputations on the line, all of us, because we're taking a chance. But we vetted this. We've vetted this since February 8th, and we believe this is the right thing. And if not, the media has already got a hold of this and has made some comments in academic ed in some cases. But that's why everybody's protective of their project. And that's why Ice Castles has been so protective of what they're going to bring to the table, because they don't want other counties or other competing areas to grab this stuff and then we lose a competitive advantage. The time is not, Doug. The time is really right now. We have the surplus money. We have the thought process, we have the planning. We should really act today. Sure.
The non-compete, so if we sign it, we have a non-compete for certain.
So we can't hear you.
This comes with a non-compete, which means we have, this comes with a non-compete, which means if we sign it, we have a radius. If we don't sign it, so someone else does, they will have a radius that will include us. So from that standpoint, this specific opportunity, if someone else signs it, will be done.
What's the radius, may I ask?
Right now it's 120, so we're gonna go revisit it. We're gonna try and make more.
120 mile radius, which includes,
Which includes Lake Placid. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Drossy.
Yeah, just two quick questions, clarifying questions. I think Supervisor Bailey mentioned this is a 4-week window. I'm not sure if you meant that this is only for 4 weeks, but would you clarify this is financially? Is it less or more than a 4-week period that event would take place?
No. That would be.
That's financially.
The event is actually, it takes place from this December 4th, is the target date for the premiere of the sound plan, until March 31st. It'd be a 5-year plan, which there would be contingency carried over. It's a one-time ask pay for the 3 million, and then we would carry the finances going forward and have money at the end of 5 years to start this whole thing again.
All right, also clarify that this is, unlike ice castles, this is not freezing weather dependent. Is it weather dependent?
No, absolutely not. And in your PowerPoint slide, when we first started our committee, we put together, I think it was 16 points of considerations that we had to have for this project. The very first one was it cannot be weather dependent. The work that we did, talking with Ice Castles this morning, what I can share with you, their model now is going to much less weather dependent. And you're going to be impressed with what they're bringing to the table too, a non-weather dependent event taking place from December through February for them. So you're going to have this 1-2 punch in this area. And you know, if you please will approve this today, we have a lot of work to start Monday morning. We have to get right on this. We have 24 weeks. That's why the short window, Doug. If you look at the timeline that's at the end of the PowerPoint, there's no rest anywhere in between now and December 4th.
Yeah, one last question. Is there confidence among the business community when many restaurants are closed, hotels, small mom and pop motels are closed, that you can actually employ staff members for as many as you need during this period?
Yes, we met with some of the business people this past week, and Gina and her crew will have some work to do to let people know this is going on so they can stay open. I think you'll see things like J1 students in the winter coming up. Certainly, we're securing housing for it. And you'll be able to give people year-round staffing. I can speak for Fort Wayne Henry only. Our housekeeping staff, which is quite large, they go on what's called shared work in the winter. So they work weekends and then they collect 3 days unemployment. That won't be the case anymore. We'll be able to give them full-time year-round employment.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Bruno.
Yes, no, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to hear from the budget officer if there's any comments regarding the funding and.
No, we have architects.
So this will have a negative impact.
Take a chunk out of it.
Right, but we're okay with it.
Well, let's expand that over to the treasurer as well then. Treasurer Swan?
All right, originally, when this came up, I said that we would have a problem funding it, okay? And this isn't part of the budget, this is part of occupancy tax, so it's a different thing. And I do have a couple quick questions for you guys. We figured out a way to make it work. If we can push that first payment back about 3 weeks, is that a possibility?
Sure is.
Okay, so if we can do that, then we can make it work. There's gonna be a lot of internal stuff that we're gonna have to do that doesn't have anything to do with you, but unless the occupancy tax falls off completely between now and the end of the year, which I don't see that happening, we should be able to fund this as long as those payments are pushed back at least about 3 weeks, each one of them, if that's a possibility.
It sure is.
Okay, so that makes me feel a lot better than I know that we can work on it. So that's good. The other question I have is, so to answer your question, yes, we have the finances as long as they're agreeable to pushing that back for that first payment. Because then we'll have enough revenue coming in and we'll have enough time to get everything set up internally. And that will also give our county attorney time to make sure that the contract is all set. And I would ask that if possible, county attorney, there be some sort of clause if our occupancy tax falls off and we don't have the money, we have to renegotiate. If that's a possibility.
It's not really even a renegotiation. If there's no funding, there's no funding.
Okay, all right. And the last question I have is, we will be needing an invoice before each one of those payments is made. I'm assuming that you've got your coalition set up, that you do have not have mechanism for it. Perfect. So I'm good.
Thank you.
Treasurer.
I what elicited my question was at that meeting, I think on the 20th, that there some concern had been voiced regarding the funding, but if that is taken care of, the,
Well, we worked pretty hard to try to make it work, so.
okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any questions?
Supervisor Frazier, did you have anything to? No. Okay. Supervisor Thomas?
Yeah, not on the funding. I have a question on the event itself, the display, the lights, whatever you want to call it. Is that going to be the same for the 5-year period, or is it changed up each year? And is it always at Fort William Henry?
The answer is, we're looking to build on this every year.
Right.
And we'll look for other opportunities around the county. This company does, I don't know if you had a chance, Frank, to see some of the videos that they do. Their creative is in many different areas. We have talked about, and we want to do what's called an Illumina walk. There's some very good examples out there where we can utilize in many areas. I even talked to Mayor Collins about possibly down at Crandall Park. But we'll look to areas to expand this program. It has to change every year or get stale with the consumer. So we'll look to improve this.
Yeah, I did go on their website and watch their demo videos, and a couple of them, and the one I really liked was with the circles, where the kid jumped on the circle and stuff. I'll tell you that kind of sold me, because I knew that would entertain people.
Any further discussion on this? And I'm just, because of the size of this, looking at item 9B in our packet here, it says resolved that the Warren County Board of Supervisors hereby appropriate funds in the amount of $3 million from the occupancy tax reserve to the following budget code as the funds become available to cover the costs of occupancy funds awarded to the Warren County Winter Coalition for the Warren County Winter Experience, which was approved since the 2023 Warren County budget was adopted in November of 2022. And there's the table for the $3 million. So that's what we're voting on today on this.
Chairman, could I make one comment?
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, so there's no confusion on the record, that occupancy tax money is not being loaned. This is not a loan. The county is not in the business of banking. This is an award like any other award of occupancy tax funds. And the county rules and local law do provide the ability to arrange for repayment when an event becomes profitable, which is the concept behind what's we're generally calling paying back the money. But all of that will be captured in a contract that'll be approved by my office going forward. But please understand, this is not a loan in any way, shape, or form. There's no interest. It's not unlike any other award of occupancy tax funds. Or it's the same as any other award of occupancy tax funds.
Oh, it's there. Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. Good luck. Thank you all for your work. We vote on by full board? So we're on to 9C here, which is the request to authorize a new contract with Warren County Winter Coalition in the amount of $3 million to provide occupancy tax funding for winter themed multimedia attraction at Fort William Henry. Supervisor Runyon on first, Supervisor Jossie on second. Further discussion? Yep. I must say, we haven't even hit 4th of July yet. And I know in my area, people are going, man, I can't wait till summer's over. But on another note, I went right out of high school at Paul Smith for hotel management. When I got out, I worked summer in Lake George Village and then headed over to Vermont, over to the Mad River Valley, because they did have winter over there and things to do. So, and finished out my hotel career there. So, All those in favor of 9B, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motions. Carries.
So now it goes to the board.
See, sorry. Yeah, thank you. Good. And now it goes to the board, yes. Number 10 is Finance Committee action required on following personnel agenda items. Number 1, SUNY Adirondack Higher Education Information. This is the request to approve the tentative operating budget for the 2023-24 SUNY Adirondack and providing for a public hearing. Motion brings to the floor. Supervisor Thomas, Supervisor Bruno, were you, is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Discussion? Supervisor. Treasurer Swan.
I just want to make a couple quick comments and contingency from the college. If I'm wrong at what I'm saying, please correct me. But 3 or 4 years ago, they took $1 million off of their budget. $1 million. Okay. In the 3 years since then, it has not increased a dime. Right now, they're here looking for 165, whatever it is. Okay. You know, they asked to sharpen their pencil. Well, it's down to the eraser. So I don't know how much more you want to sharpen it, but I just want that to be out there so they understand they are doing their job. They are very fiscally conscious of what's going on, and they're trying to make the best of what they've got to work with. And we now are getting back up to our third of what we're supposed to be. Just FYI.
Thank you. Okay, Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just like to add on that, Dr. Duffy is very diplomatic and much more adept at explaining a lot of these things, but $1 million cut meant they used the term retrenchment, but that meant people lost their jobs and were not employed through the entire time that budget is zero. So they didn't increase staff, they reduced staff. And they've got infrastructure they have not taken care of over that time and equipment they need to purchase. So
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second on that. We'd also like to say that I attended Northwest Central School graduation last Friday, and they graduated in class of 32, which was about the size that we graduated when I articulated from there. 7 of them are going off to SUNY Adirondack. That's 20% of that class. It does provide quite a support for the education of our kids here. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3 is referrals from criminal justice, public safety, assigned counsel. 3A, request to amend the table of work and salary schedule to create and fill new position of admin secretary with an annual salary of $50,633 and to leave the positions of account clerk and clerk number 2, effective June 24th, 2023. Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Gerasi, Supervisor Frazier on the second. Discussion on this item. Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. B, request to amend the table of org and salary schedule to create a new position of assistant public defender 12 per diem at an annual salary of $49,914 effective July 24th. Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Gerasi, Supervisor Runyon on the second. Discussion. Supervisor Beatty.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, this is a new position, but it's based on the number of caseload that department's handling. And basically, it's the state time as we have to hire that individual, and they will fund it fully, correct?
Thank you. Yes, that is correct. Yeah. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor of 10(3)B, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 3C is from Sheriff. Request to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to increase the salary of maintenance coordinator position from $74,416 to $77,516 565.36, effective July 24th. Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Frazier, Supervisor Drossy on the second. Discussion. Supervisor Beatty.
I'll support this with the understanding, as we talked in personnel, that we will correct and make fair any future requests from any department that they fall within the budget structure and budget timeline. So I believe I got reassurances from Frank, who is personnel chairman, that we will do that. So we will fix what I feel is a very unfair situation right now, because as I mentioned, personnel, if any other department comes halfway through the year and says, hey, we want more money for our people, and we're gonna say, no, you gotta wait for the budget process. And then they're gonna say, well, you guys just did it for another department. Doesn't matter which department, whether it's sheriff or social services or whatever. The fact of the matter is that's a bad precedent in my mind. So if we'll fix this, I'll approve this one time from my position, as long as we fix the unfairness. So do I have your charge, Mr. Chairman, that you looked into that too? I do that one.
Yeah, thank you, Supervisor Beatty. This is a very sensitive issue as far as I'm concerned on adjusting wages mid-year. And I'm not a proponent for it. It's something that we go through a budget process, and when we adopt the budget in November and implement it in January, it is going through a lot of consideration. And other department heads and with their out of unit employees as well, wait until the next time it comes around to bring it up. So I'm uncomfortable. I feel this is opening a can of worms of doing this midstream here. As the sheriff had explained in the earlier committee meeting, this was based on them settling contracts with union, and to bring them in par with that, this one is a 2.85% increase, and that is consistent with the contract. County Administrator.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, because you did bring up the point about the contracts. I'd like to make a commitment to the committee as well that unfortunately, we had contracts that expired at the end of last year, and we didn't resolve those union contracts until mid-year this year. I'll get a jump on that every time and make sure that we reach agreement with our union contracts at the point that they expire, so that we don't have this carryover to the mid-year.
If I could just add, to the degree the unions are agreeable to that as well, because it's a negotiation, not a dictation.
Thank you.
Supervisor.
Yeah, just one point of clarification. It's because of those contract negotiations and during the budget period that the sheriff was requested to hold on these requests until that time came around. So that's why the timing is included this.
Is that clear to the committee?
Yes.
Okay. 10.3C. What goes into call the question on it there. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. 10.3B. Request to amend the table of organization salary schedule to increase the salary of corrections captain position from $99,068 to $117,068 effective July 24th, 2023. Supervisor Drossy, Supervisor Frazier on the second. Discussion. Is this above the 2.85%?
Sure it is, yeah.
It is. And reasoning to bring it up beyond the 2.85%? Anybody like to address this? Sheriff, would you?
Yes.
I mentioned it in criminal justice, public safety, small personnel. I'm here out of respect for each of you. I was asked to wait to move these requests until the contract negotiations with the PBA and the patrol lieutenants took place. Through collective bargaining, our patrol lieutenants reached a certain wage where they exceeded the salary of the sheriff by $9,000. I don't know, and I can't speak to exactly where the salaries will fall with the correction supervisors collective bargaining, but it's my position or safe assumption that it will far exceed the 2.85%. And the request that I'm making for our corrections captain is one that is safely going to put that position slightly above the salary of a correction lieutenant.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for the sheriff? If not, let's call the question in for 10.3E. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. And opposed? Motion carries. 10.3E, request to amend the table of org salary schedule to increase the salary of undersheriff from $116,900 to $135,775, effective July 24th, 2023. Motion to bring to the floor. Supervisor Drossy, Supervisor Runyon on second. Discussion. Again, is that more than 2.85%?
Yes.
Yes.
It's the same concept and the same reasoning for these increases. Right. And it's, you know, these are our chief executives of our single law enforcement agency. And the responsibility, if this was a municipal agency, I can tell you that the salary of a chief of police and a deputy chief of police for an agency that size in a community this size would be more than the request is. That's without question. So I completely support, and I know our committee supported this moving forward.
Okay. And you bring that up, but us in other counties, surrounding counties. How does that compare?
Surrounding counties, sheriffs and undersheriffs.
Yeah.
I think there's certainly a mix. Some are lower, some are higher. But what's right for Warren County? What's right for the responsibility of our sheriff and undersheriff and our personnel? There's a reason that our lieutenants and our captains accomplish the salary that they have. We recognize the value in them. We recognize the need. It's been justified. It's the same approach for the undersheriff and sheriff. I mean, to have people working for you that are making more than you, there's something fundamentally wrong. This is not an overtime, but there's something fundamentally in that process that needs to be fixed. And as Supervisor Beatty said before, this is really an adjustment. It's a fix going forward. Hopefully timing with contract negotiations, budget process will be more aligned. We're recognizing this is out of budget time. This is a recognition of the value of our people and a salary that personally, I believe is certainly justified.
Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Motion carries. On to 10.3C. Now, 10.3F. Request to amend the local law number 1 of 2023 to increase the salary of the sheriff from $120,498 to $139,373. Supervisor Drossy, Supervisor Frazier on the second. Discussion.
Same reasoning.
Same reasoning. Then we'll call a question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Opposed to oppose. Motion carries. 10.4. Referral from Economic Growth, Community Development, Planning. Request to amend the table of organization of salary to increase the salary of principal planner position from $69,431 to $77,446, effective July 24th, 2023. Motion bring the floor. Supervisor Thomas, second. Supervisor. Discussion. I believe that this was to fill a vacant position and was advertised on a range. Is that correct?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, this is a position that we found a very qualified person, actually from the West, I think it's Wyoming or Montana, who is willing to come here, but the person's salary was closer to the 77 amount, I think just under that. And so we felt very strongly that this was the right person to bring in. You all know Wayne's situation. He would like to retire at some point. This is not to replace him, but someone, a principal planner who's going to play a big role in our planning department. It does a phenomenal amount of work for us. So you all know what they do. So this was a good hire for our part to get this one.
Thank you, Supervisor.
This, well, I remember some discussion around this. Was this salary offset by any other elimination position or that sort of thing?
The position's been vacant all year, so there's plenty in the budget to cover it this year. But next year we'll have to put it in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for question for 10-4. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? 10-4. Carries. Do we have a referral from budget for? Or then we did that in the transfer of funds already. We don't have. Okay, for that one. No pending items, privilege of the floor. Would anybody like to comment before we go into the full board meeting? Mr. Whitehead, you have the floor.
On that last one, I just would like to point out that it doesn't seem like paying the principal planner 75,000, 80,000, whatever. Or you can't hear me?
See if you can get close to, the mic.
Okay, I don't know if it's on or not, but I don't think that that's excessive. When you go ahead and consider that this board pays Mr. Siplin of the EDC well over $100,000, and he doesn't show up here 40 hours a week. So I think when you go through the budget process, you know that there's like 350,000, 400,000 in there for the EDC that you ought to be taking a harder look at. And perhaps looking at what your own planners do. We lost a planner, a good person from that planning department, not that many years ago. You could do it again. I think that you should look at what you're paying your people internally versus what you're paying your people externally, and it should be part of the budget discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any others for the privilege of the floor at this time? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn. Supervisor Strauss, Supervisor Bruin, all those in favor, say aye. Aye.